All right, welcome to Super Centex After Dark. DJ's in the dark in her car. But some good games across the board in Central Texas tonight. And some good wins, some heartbreaking losses. Um, John, you saw one of those gut punch of a losses. University came up a point short. What was sort of the difference in this one?
Well, the difference was a guy named Cameron Dickey. I'm sorry Chad's not here because he's committed to Texas Tech.
Yeah, Chad might be joining us. He's on his way back from Corsicana.
Anyway, this kid, he okay, first pass of the game by University. He read the route and returned it for a 67-yard touchdown. He scored the go-ahead touchdown in the fourth quarter on a 6-yard run. He ended the game, pretty much ended the game with another interception, and he also blocked a kick.
That's a busy night at the office.
So I'm sure Joey McGuire is going to love what he saw tonight.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, he was a difference. He's just a really great athlete. I mean, he obviously he can do it all. I talked to K'Ron Johnson, university coach, after the game, and he was he was disappointed in himself and the coaching staff. He just didn't think they put the players in the best positions to win the game. And but they had a really good year, even with the last two losses. And I think they're pretty set up for the future. They got a lot of young guys on that team.
Yeah.
Uh,
Did Cade
yeah,
did Cade Bynum play for University?
he did play. He did not start. A freshman named Savoy Nichols. He played in practice pretty much all week. So K'Ron decided to give him the start. And it was a rough start, obviously, because that was the pass that Dickey intercepted.
Yeah.
But after that, they put Cade in, and you could tell he was banged up, and his shoulder was bad. He got pounded a few times on the shoulder. You could tell he was kind of favoring it, coming off the field a couple of times. But it was a good game. It was a defensive battle. Really tough loss for University.
Yeah, and as you said, obviously they do have some good players coming back, like Cade Bynum, like London Smith, and
Yeah.
others. Joaquin Martinez on defense. So University's set up well. It's I think big of K'Ron Johnson to take that loss on himself. But but yeah, they've got a nice thing going there at University. Kind of continuing with that theme, I'll go ahead and cover my game a little bit.
Okay.
Another bigger classification school that lost a playoff game at home by 1 point tonight, the Midway Panthers, 20-19 losers to Waxahachie. Obviously, in a game like that, when you have two blocked extra points, that's going to loom large. Midway had two extra points that were blocked. James Satterfield's been money all year. I don't even really think it was on him. The first one, the holder kind of bobbled, and so Satterfield really didn't have time to go through his normal motion. And then the other one, Waxahachie was just back there, like it looked like there was no resistance from the line. It looked like the whole team was back there, and they blocked that one too. So Coach Ezra Martinez mentioned those special teams mistakes after the game a few times. But I also thought, look, it's a team game, and there were some other things that really cost Midway in this game. And those were in the second half, the defense, which had played so lights out in the first half, just could not get off the field. Waxahachie was 8 of 10 on third down. They were 1 of 1 on fourth down. They had 2 75-yard scoring drives, one that was 13 plays, one that was 17 plays. Yeah, I mean, and that, of course, kept the ball out of Midway's hand. Midway only ran 34 plays tonight. So, Ty Brown and that offense really didn't have a chance to do quite as much. But still, you got to like what Midway did. Like John said with University, it's a good step in the right direction for the Midway Panthers tonight. We are also joined by Chad Conine now. We'll let Chad get sort of settled, but I also want to. So we've covered University, we've covered Midway. I want to hit Michael Haig. Mike, you said earlier in the week that you were excited about covering this one, and wow, what a statement for Valley Mills, man. I mean, that's a big win for Coach Featherston's team.
It's a huge win, yeah, over a top 10 Axtell team that was undefeated for the whole year, 10-0. They were rolling, and one thing people might have thought going into the matchup was, have the Longhorns really been tested all year? And I think that kind of came to fruition. The one thing that kind of really tipped the favor in Valley Mills's, tipped the edge in Valley Mills's favor was the front seven for Valley Mills is just loaded. I know DJ and I were talking earlier in the week about how Marlin head coach Ruben Torres had said, I mean, that was the best front seven they had played all year was Valley Mills. And they're just huge and they're quick and they just live in the backfield. It's crazy. And they made life really miserable for Levi Leathers, a true freshman with Axtell. And, and it's funny because they came out of the gates really strong, that front seven in particular, but Axtell still held a 12-9 lead at halftime. And so I was thinking, man, is it going to be enough? For Valley Mills to pull off the upset. And they came out in the second half, and I'll tell you what, Brady Woodrum, that kid is something else. He tore that Axtell defense up. And I think part of the reason he had a good first half. I think he had like 46 yards on 4 catches, but what made him able to get more open in the second half was that Coach Featherston elected to utilize the Wildcat a lot more. And so, they had wide receivers or running backs just taking direct handoffs, and they were hitting the edges really quick. And then, Valley Mills's O-line was just imposing, and they were just moving them. And they were just getting easy yards off that. And then that, in turn, opened up some play action over the middle stuff. But it got really tense, and Axtell had some chances late to take the lead, tie it, or whatever. I know they were trailing by 4, and they had 2 possessions in the fourth quarter to tie or to take the lead or whatever, or cut into the deficit. And one, they fumbled it, which that's not really characteristic of Axtell. And then the second one, they just 4 and out, got stopped, had a delay of game on the first snap. And it was just shooting themselves in the foot a little bit. And then Valley Mills really put the game away when Brady Woodrum scored a 29-yard touchdown on 4th and 16. I mean, it was unbelievable. I think it was just under 2 minutes to go. Coach Horn had called his first or second timeout. And when I talked to Coach Featherston after the game, he said Brady was looking at the sidelines give me a chance here. Let me do a one-on-one over the top. And I mean, he just ran right up the seam down the right side and caught it and scored. It was unbelievable. And that just put it away. And Axtell, losers, obviously, maybe. And I know Coach Horn said maybe next year, maybe schedule some tougher non-district opponents to maybe prepare them a little more.
Sure, we talked about that on our Super Centex pod earlier this week. I also liked. I did get a quick chance to look over your story, and I liked the quote from Coach Horn where he was like, "Look, man, we don't have that many big guys. I'm our biggest guy, and I'm not even that big."
I picked that one out. I thought that was funny, and I mean, seriously, he was just like, "Those guys are bigger than us. It's hard." And kind of on a similar note to what J-Dub was saying about University, they are fairly young. I know they're bringing back 9 of 11 guys on offense. So I mean, Axtell's not going anywhere. They're still gonna be really good. But yeah, so definitely a little bit. Outsized, I guess, if you will, by that loaded Valley Mills front.
Well, Chad, are you trying to talk? You're on mute. We can't hear you. So, what was I going to say? We talked about the fact that Valley Mills could win this game, and yet neither Chad nor DJ nor I pulled the trigger on that pick. We all went with the 10-0 Axtell Longhorns, but What are you gonna do? What are you gonna
You
do?
know what's funny? When I was at Midway last night for the Marlin game, Ricky Torres from Itasca was there, and he asked me, he was like, "Hey, did you pick Axtell to win over Valley Mills?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, like we think Valley Mills has a chance, but like Axtell's 10-0, and they've got some really good guys, and blah blah." And he said he was like, because apparently the Itasca coaches were also doing a little bit of like an over under kind of thing, and they all picked Axtell, but I was like, look, Axtell just does not seem like it's been tested this season, and Valley Mills plays a really tough district, so yeah, I kind of regret not picking them now. Just
good for the Eagles. They've had a lot of big baseball wins in recent years, including a state championship, but I can't remember a bigger football win in a while for Valley Mills. So
apparently Levi Leathers is really good at football. I mean baseball. He's good at football, but apparently he's good.
Leathers
really
is good at baseball.
Johnny? Hey Bryce, are you saying it's been a while since Donnie Sadler played?
Donnie Sadler, it has been a long time. That sign out there, home with Donnie Sadler, is pretty faded. So yeah,
right.
He was a good football player too, right?
He was. He was on our all-time Super Centex team.
I wanted to make sure you could hear me too now.
Yeah, so we can.
I'm audible. All right.
I'm going down the list on my screen here, and I'm just going to hit DJ next, who also saw a pretty freaking good game, it looked like.
Oh my gosh, yes. I feel like I was like in the first half, I felt like giddy watching this game because it was just like it was so close. Like
see, high school football has got you though. Now I can tell. Like you say,
it's got its tentacles around DJ.
It's like got its hooks in DJ.
No, but you know, Teague came out on top.
And you said Teague instead of Teague.
Do you know how many times I have been corrected over this week alone? And it infuriates me because I did not spend the last 20 years of my life learning how to speak English out of necessity, not even my choice, out of necessity, for people to come and correct me on my English.
But now you speak English, but you have to speak Central Texas.
I do have to speak Central Texas now. Yeah, it's the first postseason win for the Lions since 2017.
Nice.
And you know, Zach Linton was just ecstatic. He was so happy. Year 2 of their coaching staff being there, and yeah, I mean, it was the run game for Teague, and along with some capitalizing on some of West's mistakes, which I mean West always plays hard, and it's all kind of tough going down on the field after a team loses and seeing how, and I was actually joking with Coach Woodard after the game how I've only covered their losses this season. He was like, I might ban you from our press box next year. Just joking about it. He's always really gracious with us even after a loss, but right, like Easton Paxton, Gus Crane, Zane Harper, all of those seniors, just hard to see those guys after a game like this where they were 2 points away. Like they went and scored at the end of the first half to tie it 21-21. They missed the extra point that would have put them ahead going into the locker room, and then came back, had the ball at the start of the second half, went 3 and out. They were 4th and 1. And they punted, and I was like, and sure, they were like still in their own territory, but I was like, they could have gone for it on 4th down, held onto the ball a little longer, probably gone and scored, but they punted, and then got it back on a fumble, and then 2 plays later lost it on a fumble, and the Lions went and scored what would be the go-ahead score, which was Shamar Davis' 3rd touchdown out of Teague's 4 touchdowns. And it's funny because he only had like 30 rushing yards the whole game, but he scored 3 of the 4 touchdowns.
It's an efficient night.
Yeah. And they got the 2-point conversion. I don't, because of the like it being kind of misty and cold and windy, I don't think a lot of teams have been like comfortable like trying to kick the ball because mostly because of the snapping, and you saw that a lot on like even just regular snaps, like during drives. There was it late in the second half where ball just went past Gus Crane and he had to like go and like just bunker down over it, or else the Lions would have gotten it. But yeah, West went and scored at the end of the game, but missed the 2-point conversion. Like Gus tossed it back to Easton Paxton, and Easton tossed it to Gus, but it was just too short because he was under pressure from the Lions defense. And then Tig had a minute and 15 to like they converted on third down on a huge pass to Braden Gaunt, who, I mean, Zach Leah didn't get to pass a lot, but when he did, it was to Braden, and you know, that connection was just pretty solid. But really it was the run game that won it for the Lions, and you know, it was just a really good game, and
we thought it would be, and it obviously lived up to that. Good win for Tig. And I think
it's an E and an A. Like, I want to say Teague so bad.
Well, right. I suspect
Teague.
that this will be just a semicolon for the comma. They'll be back next year.
Yeah. I think they've got a lot of young guys that are still gotten a lot of experience. Yeah. I don't know if you want me to talk about
my line.
Just,
all right.
Do you want me to cover the Marlin game that I
Super
saw last
Centex
night?
Bay without a cherry bomb.
Well, hang on, DJ. Let me get to Levi. He's been sitting there patiently. Levi, I hadn't really thought about this until I saw your story, but yeah, the last game at Falcon Field, right there, as Chad would say, hard. Next to the what would you say? Hard
by Magnolia.
Hard by Magnolia. That's what you would say.
Yeah.
So yeah, Live Oak puts a nice winning end on their home field, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty scenic little area there with Magnolia with the Christmas lights and stuff. That was pretty cool. It was my first taste of six-man football. They had a good crowd tonight for their final kind of game there. I don't think they know where they're going to be playing next year, just quite yet, but it was a back and forth game in the first half. I think it was like 50-34 or something going into half. So there's like 84 combined points. And I asked the guy next to me, I'm like even in six man, like this is a lot of points, right? And he's like, yeah, like this is one of our most high scoring games this season. And then in the second half, Live Oak really turned it on. They have a pretty good running back wide receiver combination of Vince Gann, Colton Wilson, and Tristan Walksman. They combined for 9 touchdowns. Walksman had 6 of his own. He's a beast. He's just a really big dude. Yeah, he's a really big dude. He's tough to tackle. And then their defense really kind of clamped down in the second half. I think for the most part, Brian was kind of scoring whenever they wanted. They had a couple good players, but they had 3 possessions in the second half, and Live Oak stopped them each time. And so what was kind of a close game quickly became like the mercy rule, like 45-point mercy rule thing, and that was news to me, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, okay, I can be home by 9:15.
Yeah, I should have given you some tips on six man like I did to
You've been home for a while. Did you take a nap before we started?
Yeah, no, I was out here watching, like I just watched the entire Lakers Suns game, and I was like, okay, like I had so much free time. But yeah, it was a good game. Like Live Oak is probably going to play Conroe Covenant next week. Covenant plays tomorrow, but they're playing like a 4-5 San Marcos team or something, so they're probably going to win. I think that game is probably going to be at Bryan at a neutral site, and Covenant beat Live Oak by 20 in the first game of the season, so it'll be a good game. I think that will be it'll be interesting. I think Live Oak is they're pretty good. They have some really good players, and I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, Bryce Helton has talked about this team really wasn't maybe expected to do quite as well as it has done this year. They got a big district championship there at Live Oak, and I mean, I think they're maybe a little ahead of schedule with some of their younger guys. So good for the Falcons. Chad,
hey Bryce, could I break in here? I wanted to tell Levi the best bumper sticker I ever saw that only a 6-man football fan would understand. My kid, 45 to your kid.
I need one of those honestly now after
It was
tonight.
so awesome, so awesome. Screw the
Really
honor
was.
roll.
Yeah,
Don't e-
I think everybody should implement like 45
yeah.
score mercy rolls or something.
Mercy rule is a beautiful thing in 6-man.
It is a beautiful thing. I loved it.
Chad, La Vega had to kind of battle back, didn't it?
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. By the way, you mentioned I'm hard by the quick save in Belmead now on my way back
All right.
Hey, come
from
on by. You're in my
Corsicana.
house.
I am. I'm kind of across the way there, but yeah. It was a kind of a strange night because I get to
I'm
Corsicana.
live here.
When everybody's looking up this way, what's going on this way? Okay, never mind. I get to Corsicana and go out on the field, and like there's nobody in the stands. La Vega's on the field, Dunbar is not on the field, and I'm just like going, okay, the lights are on. One team is out here. There's 35 minutes till game time, so I walk over and sidle up by one of the principals on the La Vegas sideline. I was like, y'all have an opponent? And they're like, yeah, funny you should mention that. Not yet. So apparently Fort Worth ISD they won't let out their buses for the kids to go until the buses are back from taking kids home, right? So they got to wait for the buses to get back from taking kids home. Then they load up their bus. Then they go to their playoff game, right? So they roll up like 5 after 7. Like at 35 minutes before the game, the other team actually was not there at the location.
That's insane.
They get off the bus, put on their uniforms, go on the field and stretch. But you know what? They got off the bus ready to play. And meanwhile, La Vega, I think, kind of fell asleep, and it's 21-0, by the time you snap your fingers there. And I was doing, taking photos tonight too. And so I'm standing on the La Vega sideline and it was getting nasty over there. I mean, it was like, I kind of wanted to move away from it a little bit. And then finally La Vega scored a touchdown. And I'm like, I'm not going back to the La Vega sideline. Now that they've scored a touchdown, if they start, sucking again, then they're going to start blaming me. So I'll just stay here in the end zone for a while. And then I go over to the Dunbar sideline. I spend the rest of the night on the Dunbar sideline because there really wasn't anybody over there. I could move around easier, But so Bryson Rowland scores 3 touchdowns in the last 4 minutes and 12 seconds of the first half of the second quarter. They tie the game 21-21. Ultimately, they scored 42 straight points and won 42-21. And never let them back into the game. And I asked, talked to Hyde afterward, and Hyde's just like. It's like, well, we weren't even lining up correctly. And if you don't line up correctly, it's hard. You get in a bind, and we got in a bind. And but he was good old matter of fact Don Hyde, and call it like he saw it. And he was not real happy with the way they came out in the third quarter, but they got it done. And I think DJ mentioned a trick play a while ago. La Vega had a smooth little flea flicker where they handed off to the Roland, sucked the defense in. He tosses it back, and Junior Thornton threw to his brother for a 27-yard touchdown. That was the last touchdown of the night. So
nice.
La Vega's moving on. They play number 8 ranked Panther Creek next week at the Star.
Okay. Wow. That'll be a good location.
Our 4A, our 5 4A teams, man, they're getting their hands full next week.
Yeah, and speaking of that, another 5 4A team, Art Strickland covered China Spring for us. As I got into my car at Midway, of course, the parking lot's a big mess. There's a lot of fans there.
That's why you got to ride in your car, brother.
Yeah, well, so I turn on my car, and Drake and Cameron, who are doing the China Spring broadcast, are just losing their minds. I mean, I'm just putting it out there. They were, and in listening to them that for the few minutes there, I was like, wow, it sounds like China Spring might lose or something. And then all of a sudden at one point they say the score, it's 42-24. And I'm like, what are you guys talking about? I'm like,
that's the entire broadcast. They start losing their minds and they just lose their minds for 2.5 hours. That's all they do.
Well, whatever. If they listen to our podcast, so be it. But they lost their minds, particularly over a call that they thought shouldn't have resulted in a DPI, a pass interference call. But anyway,
I mean,
obviously they're going to be homers for China Spring. But anyway, the Cougars survived.
Drake is bragging this year. Lee was bragging this fall about causing a fight at Alvarado somehow.
Yes.
Like he got in this big old conflict of Alvarado, and he made T-shirts about it. I was like, dude, if you would just calm down and call the game like a normal person instead of screaming the entire time, maybe you wouldn't run into that problem.
Oh boy, we are off the rails. Let's move on. We're not trying to bash anybody here. We're not trying to bash anybody. DJ, give us a quick assessment of Marlin, who you saw last night.
Yeah, I mean, they did what they had to do. It was really funny in the first half. Kearns was really that's another name that I have a hard time saying. Kearns. We were thinking it was Blake Shelton that was like the fighting Karens.
Blake Shelton.
No, Blake Shelton. You know who I'm
talking on The Voice?
I'm sorry. If he's watching
Blake Shelton was at the Marlin game.
Blake Shelton was at the Marlin. No, it's Brad Shelton, but
Brad Shelton. Okay,
he's the best. He's the best.
I'm gonna call him Blake Shelton from now on.
Anyway, the weather was obviously a factor. They couldn't really, they had trouble handling the ball. There wasn't a lot of passing going on. Marlin just ran the ball really well. Obviously, they hurt themselves a little bit, especially in the first half with penalties. But in the end, they took care of business, and it was it was another one of those, just like last year in the playoffs. If they miss one extra point, Ruben just does not kick it at all for the rest of the game. They went for 2 the rest of the game, and there was this guy Ryan that was sitting behind me, and I don't know what he was covering the game for, because he was mentioning something about working for Cameron Yo. I'm not really sure, and if he sees this, then feel free to message me and let me know what he was covering the game for. But he was like, Eric Ramos is a good kicker. Why you can kick the ball here? And I was like, dude, it's not about Eric, because talking to Ruben earlier for my kicker story, my Hispanic kicker story, he said, Eric is the most consistent guy that we've had in the 3 years that they've been coaching there. But he could not snap the ball. The guy that was snapping the ball just was not handling the ball well.
It was nasty last night. It was raining steadily. Yeah.
Yeah. So. And then I had Ricky Torres next to me, him and his son were calling plays the whole day. It was a good time. I feel like I covered.
And was Marlin radio guy there?
He was, but he wasn't on our floor. I think he was he got an actual booth this time. So usually we're covering games in the small, little press boxes, and Panther Stadium has a nice little arrangement there. We got Bush's chicken.
Yeah.
I love those little corn nuggets. They're so good. Yeah.
I'll do a couple quick more shout outs because we're running out of time, but good win for Conley, good win for Gatesville. Last night, Chilton took care of business. Remember, it looked like for a quick minute that Chilton might not even get in the playoffs. Of course, they got it done. And Dawson tonight, 72-0 in the bi-district round. How about that for the Dawson Bulldogs? So I appreciate all of y'all staying up late, covering your games, getting those stories to us, and we'll have more playoffs next week. But for now, peace out. See ya.
We have Whitney tomorrow.
Whitney Grosbeck. See ya.
Yeah, Whitney Grosbeck.